Good day everyone! In this video, we will be discussing about GMO, genetically modified organisms. To understand about it, we're going to tackle its benefits, the potential risks, both environmental and human, that are caused by GMOs, its biosafety, and its Philippine context. So, what is GMO? So, according to the World Health Organization, GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, are organisms like plants, animals, or microbes in which the genetic material like DNA has been transformed in a way that does not occur normally through mating and or natural recombination. GMOs have become commonplace in society with applications in agriculture, health, research, and environmental management. While GMOs have benefited human society in many ways, they also have major drawbacks. As a result, the manufacturing of GMOs is still a highly contentious matter in many parts of the world. So here are the benefits of GMOs. First is they provide more genetics related information. So the mapping of GMO genetic material has advanced our understanding of genetic modifications and cleared the road for the improvement of genes in crops to make them more productive and safe to eat. Crops, for example, can be designed to withstand extreme temperatures or provide larger yields, resulting in a higher degree of genetic diversity in climate-sensitive areas. So the second one is they make it possible to make more money. So GMOs have become a very effective way for farmers to increase their profitability by allowing them to spend less time managing the resources. It is also cost effective because these organisms are developed to be pest resistant, which eliminates the need for pesticides, resulting in greater savings. So the third one is they increase the value of crops. So another compelling argument to develop GMO crops is that they will provide increased nutritional value, particularly to individuals who previously lacked essential vitamins and minerals. Plant genes can be inserted to rice or maize crops to increase their nutritional value, which is especially beneficial in malnourished people. Furthermore, because GMOs are resistant to pests and other plant diseases, farmers will be able to improve food yields without needing to apply pesticides. The fourth one is they are noted for lowering food prices. Advanced crops and larger yields undoubtedly imply lower expenses, which can be passed on to customers in the shape of lower cost food. This will be extremely beneficial to families that cannot afford to buy goods on a regular basis. So this also means that hunger will be avoided. So the fifth one, they produce products that have been determined to be safe. So GMOs and other related items have been confirmed to be safe for human consumption after extensive research and review. In fact, research suggests that they're even safer than traditional crops. And those are some of the benefits of GMOs.
Now let us move on to the potential risk of GMOs. So the first potential risk of GMO is the horizontal transfer of recombinant genes to other microorganisms. One risk of particular concern relating to GMOs is the risk of horizontal gene transfer, or also known as HGT. HGT is the acquisition of foreign genes via transformation, transduction, and conjugation by organisms in a variety of environmental situations. HGT of an introduced gene from a GMO may confer a novel trait in another organism, which could be a source of potential harm to the health of people or the environment. Next is the adverse effect on the health of the people or the environment. These include enhanced pathogenicity, emergence of a new disease, pest or weed, increased disease burden if the recipient organism is a pathogenic microorganism or virus, increased weed or pest burden if the recipient organism is a plant or invertebrate, and adverse effect on species, communities, and ecosystem. Third is unpredictable and unintended effects. HGT may transfer the introduced genes from a GMO to potential pests or pathogens and may yet to be identified organisms. This may alter the ecological potential of the recipient organism and even bring about unexpected changes in structure or function. Furthermore, the gene transferred may insert at variable sites of the recipient gene, not only introducing a novel gene but also disrupting an endogenous gene, causing unpredictable and unintended effects. Fourth is the loss of management control measures. Regulatory approvals for field trials of GMOs often require measures to limit and control the release in space and time. With the spread of the introduced genes to another species by HGT, a new GMO is created, and this new GMO may give rise to adverse effects which are not controlled by management measures imposed by the original license or permit. Fifth is the long-term effects. Sometimes the impact of HGT may be more severe in the long term. Even under relatively strong selection pressure, it may take thousands of generations for a recipient organism to become the dominant form in the population. Lastly is the ethical concerns. Various ethical issues associated with HGT from GMOs have been raised, including perceived threats to the integrity of intrinsic value of the organisms involved, to the concept of natural order and integrity of species, and to the integrity of the ecosystems in which the genetically modified organisms occurs. Several scientific evidences that has emerged on GMOs over the last couple of years shows that there are several clear risks to human health in the environment. So now let us move on to the potential environmental risks of GMOs.
Hello everyone! So now I am here to tackle all about the potential environmental risk caused by GMOs. The first one is the genetic contamination or the interbreeding. So introduced GMOs may interbreed with a wild type or sexually compatible relatives. The novel trait may disappear in wild type unless it confers a selective advantage to the recipient. However, tolerance abilities of wild types may also develop, thus altering the native species' ecological relationship and behavior. The second one is competition with natural species. So faster growth of GMOs can enable them to have a competitive advantage over the native organisms, and this may allow them to become invasive, to spread into new habitats and cause ecological and economic damage. The third one is increased selection on pressure, target and non-target organism. So pressure may increase on target and non-target species to adapt to the introduced changes as if to a geological change or a natural selection pressure, causing them to evolve distinct resistant population. The fourth is ecosystem impacts. So the effects of changes in a single species may extend well beyond to the ecosystem. Single impacts are always joined by the risk of ecosystem damage and destruction. The fifth one is increased use of toxic herbicides and pesticide. So as we all know that the majority of the GM crops are those which have been engineered to be herbicide or weed killer resistant. It also encourages the development of super weeds which are resistant to glyphosate, such as the giant pigweed, which grows over 2 meters tall, and the what we call the morning glory. And on the latter part, it will evolve a reproductive system which ensures its tolerance of glyphosate. And this phenomena was not something predicted by the genetic engineers, of today's generation.
Genetically modified crops are distinct from other foods. For the first time, imported genes, viruses, and bacteria vectors, viral promoters, and antibiotic marker system may be engineered into food. These genetic cassettes are novel to the human diet and should be thoroughly tested for safety. Instead, in 1992, the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, decided, without any scientific foundation, that genetically altered foods pose no different dangers than regular meals. The FDA's own experts mocked this unscientific, bureaucratic view on genetic engineering. According to FDA experts, there is a substantial distinction between the sorts of unanticipated outcomes from traditional breeding and genetic engineering. This distinction should be addressed, yet it is not. A lot of questions arise, and one is, what are the new unexpected consequences and health dangers that genetic engineering poses? So today, we will talk about that. Here are the potential human health risks that can be caused by GMOs. Toxicity, allergic reactions, antibiotic resistance, immunodepression. Now let's start with toxicity. Genetically engineered foods are inherently unstable. Each insertion of a novel gene and the accompanying cassette of promoters, antibiotic marker systems, and vectors is random. Food producers simply do not know where their genetic cassette is being inserted in the food, nor do they know enough about the genetic or chemical makeup of foods to establish a safe place for such insertions. As a result, each gene insertion into a food amounts to playing food safety roulette, with the companies hoping that the new genetic material does not destabilize a safe food and make it hazardous. Next on the list is the allergic reactions. The genetic engineering of food creates two separate and serious health risks involving allergenicity. The first is that genetic engineering can transfer allergens from food to which people know they are allergic to foods that they think are safe. The risk is not hypothetical. A study by the New England Journal of Medicine showed that when a gene from a Brazil nut was engineered into a soybeans, people allergic to nuts had serious reactions to the engineered product. There is another allergy risk associated with GE foods. These foods could be creating thousands of different and new allergic responses. Each genetic cassette being engineered into foods contains a number of novel proteins that can be in the form of altered genes, bacteria, viruses, promoters, marker systems, and vectors, which have never been part of the human diet. Each of these numerous novel proteins could create an allergic response in some consumers. The FDA was also well aware of this new and potentially massive allergenicity problem. The agency's scientists repeatedly warned that genetic engineering could produce a new protein allergen. Third on the list is the antibiotic resistance. Another hidden risk of GE foods is that they could make disease-causing bacteria resistant to current antibiotics, resulting in a significant increase in the spread of infections and diseases in the human population. Virtually all genetically engineered foods contain antibiotic resistance markers, which help the producers identify whether the new genetic material has actually been transferred into the host of food. Fourth on the list is the immunosuppression. The Lancet, a prestigious British medical publication, released an important research done by Drs. Arpad Pusztai and Stanley W.B. Ewan, were supported by a Scottish government grant. The researchers investigated the effect on rats of eating potatoes genetically altered to carry the biopesticide Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT. The scientists discovered that rats fed genetically engineered potatoes had severe negative consequences on organ development, body metabolism, and immunological functions. Moreover, 22 leading scientists recently declared the animal test results linking genetically engineered foods to immunosuppression are valid. The biotechnology industry started a huge campaign against Dr. Pusztai and his research. They have, however, failed to present a single research of their own to dispute these findings.
Right now, we will cover the concept of biosafety, why biosafety is important for GMOs, and what are the related biosafety issues. You already know what a GMO is, or genetically modified organism. Right now, we shall uncover the definition of biosafety. So what is biosafety? Biosafety is a term used to describe efforts to reduce and eliminate the potential risks resulting from biotechnology and its products. As the genes are derived from various organisms, as we see on the GMOs, concerns raised regarding safety of such organisms since the beginning of technology in 1975, and guidelines or regulations put in place for the biosafety regulations. So what are the major concerns or issues for the GMOs, for which we have to deal with biosafety or to have the containment or to have an assurance that they are safe for us? Let us see what are the major concerns or issues of GMO products. First, we have labeling GM and non-GM food. Customers always choose which product to eat. That is why GMO products should be labeled. The related issue is the need for a certification agency specializing in certifying the GM nature of a product. However, labeling may create confusion among consumers and add to the cost of GM products. Second, we have the antibiotic resistance genes in GM food. The transfer of antibiotic resistance from the GM food consumed by the people into the bacteria inhabiting the human gut, which might result in a disease-causing bacterial population to become resistant to antibiotics. The researchers should continue to remove more rapidly all markers from GM plants and utilize alternative markers for the selection of new varieties. For the third part, we have the environmental concerns. First, we have the loss of biodiversity. Transgenic plants can affect population dynamics of target and non-target pests. We have cross-pollination, we have emergence of superweeds and superbugs, and potential increase in use of herbicides. Number 4, we have the gene transfer from one GMO to another GMO. First, we have the horizontal gene transfer, which is a gene transfer from bacteria to bacteria, or plant to bacteria. And the vertical gene transfer. It is a transfer of gene from GMO to sexually compatible relatives, resulting from involution of gene pool by disrupting the natural pattern of gene genetic diversity. And for the last part, we have the effects on biodiversity. GM crops could lead to erosion of biodiversity and pollute gene pools of endangered plant species. The potential transfer of a transgene to local flora and its any possible subsequent impact on specific plant species. That's it for the biosafety of GMOs.
GMOs in the Philippines describe market for genetically method organisms or GMOs in Philippines, including policies that allow or ban them. So the Philippines was the first in Asia to approve commercial cultivation of a GM crop for animal feed and food in 2002 when it allowed GM corn planting. And it has also allowed GM crop imports for more than a decade. And around 70% of its corn output is GM. So how are GMOs regulated in the Philippines? So the Philippines has also ratified the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety or CPB, which requires the regulations of GMOs before they are subject to transboundary movements. And a science-based regulation permitted the Philippines to be the first Asia to have GM crop commercials in 2002. The BT corn, as of 2011, Roundup Ready corn and BT corn are sold by both Monsanto and Lepon's brand. So Pioneer Hybrid in the Philippines, there is development underway to introduce BT eggplant and papaya ring spot virus resistant, or the PRSVR papaya.
So what is the first GMO in the Philippines? Golden rice was the first GMO in the Philippines. It was developed by the Department of Agriculture, Philippine Rice Research Institute, or the DA PhilRice, in partnership with the International Rice Research Institute, or IRRI, to contain additional levels of beta-carotene which the body converts into vitamin A. So what are the impacts of GMO in the Philippines? Productivity growth of the country's corn industry was estimated to be 11.45% higher due to GM corn adoption. This is according to the study. The total welfare gain as measured by the equivalent variation of income reached $189.4 million or nearly 0.1% of total household income. So GMO's critics argue the technology poses risks to public health, while advocates say such fears have not been scientifically proven and that high-yielding genetically altered crops would help ensure food security as the world's population grows. And we are down to our conclusion. So we have tackled what is GMO, its benefits, the potential risks, both environmental and human, that are caused by GMOs, its biosafety, and its Philippine context. I hope you have learned something from the discussion class. Thank you for listening and see you next time. Bye-bye!